Alternative music is a term that anyone listening to this has most definitely heard before. But what exactly does it mean? Alternative music is most closely associated with the genre of alternative rock. This genre became prominent in the 1990s with the debuts of bands like Weezer, Nirvana, Radiohead, The Talking Heads, Rage Against the Machine, Green Day, and also in the early 2000s, groups like My Chemical Romance, The Strokes, and Paramore. But as time went on, it became increasingly more confusing as to what exactly alternative music was. Some albums and specific groups kept the raw yet distorted sound of the electric guitar the same, from popular rock music of the 70s and 80s, including the sounds of various metal bands. In short, the alt-rock of the 90s and 2000s held some of the same characteristics as the more hardcore rock bands of the time, but it had a more independent and less commercial feel to it. Nowadays, alternative doesn't just mean alternative rock. Much of alternative music today consists of a more stripped-down indie feel. Some artists still have the same kind of sound. This includes bands like Wallows in the 1975 or solo projects like Tame Impala. But a lot of newer artists that label themselves as alternative aren't necessarily the same thing as the alternative rock of the 90s and 2000s. A lot of these newer, more modern alternative sounds are coming from solo projects such as Mac DeMarco, Joe, spelled D-J-O, Phoebe Bridgers, Florence and the Machine, and also Taylor Swift in her 2020 albums Folklore and Evermore. On most streaming platforms, they're labeled alternative. So you can see why defining the alternative genre has become a little more confusing in modern times. The term alternative has become sort of an umbrella term for many unique sounds formed by different musical artists throughout the years. When asked what alternative music is to them, everyone is bound to say something different. But alternative music really is just that, an alternative to all of the overproduced and frankly repetitive mainstream music that kind of gets shoved down our throats today. Not to say that kind of music is bad, because I do listen to a lot of it myself, but the reason the alternative genre is so well liked is because it's different. It's called alternative rock and alternative pop and alternative everything because it's just a little bit different from the genres that it's branching off of. And a lot more people are using the term alternative to describe the kind of music that doesn't really have a specific label. For me, I started listening to a lot of alternative artists, like artists that labeled themselves as alternative when I was in middle school, such as Will Wood and Tally Hall, and they are both labeled as alternative on all streaming platforms, but their sound really isn't alternative because Will Wood is a jazz fusion, heavily inspired by jazz, but it does not say that anywhere on the little genre marking on streaming platforms. So alternative just feels like it's being used for anything nowadays, just because it's become something that is not very well defined anymore. So many people are just calling their music alternative because it's not really pop, it's not really rock, but it's also not really jazz, and it's not really classical either. So what is it? It's alternative. And I guess that's what alternative music is. It's just a little bit of everything. So I leave you all with this final question that you guys can answer yourselves. Do you think that as time goes on, all music will just morph into one big alternative blob? Thank you. Thank you for listening to my speech, my rant. Because I think what this podcast is going to be is just me ranting about music. The first episode was just a little bit more scripted than this one, but I just had a lot more to talk about for this one. Because I do like a lot of alternative music. I have listened to a lot of different music, and alternative is by far one of my favorite genres, even though it is, as I said, like a very wide umbrella term and a very wide category of music. But thank you for listening, and stay tuned. I don't know what else I'm going to talk about on here because I just had this random idea to talk about some interesting questions about music, about modern music. And so, yeah, that's what this is going to be. And I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for listening.